I think people spend way too much time trying to improve their weaknesses, and it's point. You're far better navigating to a place where you double down on your strengths.
So the reason I wanted to have this podcast, this episode today of lessons from leaders is the series that we're doing. Is a lot of people are going to be in or already are in sort of difficult positions in their career, or I think a lot of it is more of a mindset issue right now. A lot of people are really concerned and worried about what the future holds. A lot of the sort of colleagues and acquaintances of mine that I've spoken to recently have said they've been put at risk, that they don't know what that means. They might have a job, they might not, and that's one of the worst places to be in, I think, not knowing. Because at least if you know, you can start looking. So you sort of tie into that really well. So I won't introduce you because you know more about yourself than I do. So I'll let you introduce yourself if that's all right. So what's your sort of background and what do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. So I initially trained as an accountant and then spent 15 years in recruitment and executive search. And whilst I was running an executive search business, I spotted that there was a gap to help senior leaders who are in transition. So on the side, initially, I set up a business called Career Jump, which was initially just an online course to help people understand what they wanted from their career and how to get it. Okay. So it started off just as this kind of, I think side hustle's the thing the cool kids call it, but I'm not sure a 40-year-old bloke can use that expression. But anyway, that's what it was, mate. It was a side hustle. And so my day job was MD of an exec search business, but I was doing this online career coaching and started doing some one-on-one stuff in the side. Anyway, one day I got called to a hotel, received a text message, and after 5 years, the company I was working with got disbanded, moved about, sold off. Felt pretty blindsided and hurt at the time, but took the Career Jump project with me, and then have spent the last 18 months really ramping it up. So today I'm the founder of Career Jump. We have an online community of over 70 leaders who subscribe to our online content and help each other. I do one-on-one interview boot camps and career coaching just to help people get clarity, because it's a crazy marketplace right now. So it's going well. It's busy, as you know, being in a similar field, and it's really meaningful work. It's a mission that feels good. And I think the first time in my career, and I hope you get this as well as you continue to scale out, that I feel like I'm doing something that's got that mission undertone rather than, frankly, just for the cash, which has been very much where I've been in the past. So
yeah, absolutely. And to give some context, that the reason that Andy and I know each other is I was made redundant. I very rarely talk about myself on this, but today it will be quite relevant. I was made redundant just over a month ago. It feels like it was a year ago now. The amount of stuff that's gone on in my life over the last month, it feels like it was a year ago, but it was only 4 weeks ago, I think now. And 4 weeks ago. So I sort of had been in a sort of similar way to you. You called it a side hustle, but I was doing it for free, helping people with their careers and helping people sort of because like yourself, I've been in recruitment for a very long time. I know how to go out and find candidates, and I know what to do if I was one. And I know that it wouldn't just be sat there applying for jobs on LinkedIn, and then there's a ton more to it. So I thought, well, there's an opportunity here to go and speak to sort of use that knowledge that I have to go out and help people. And given the market, and given that, going and looking for a new job right now in what I was doing might not be the best idea, given it sort of senior level HR positions seem to be in a position where they're less likely to be available over the next few months. Go and try and do something. And I sort of rang up Andy out of the blue. I think you're walking your dog or something. I think you're on a walk, and sort of introduced myself in quite an embarrassing way, and then just said, "Could you please help me? Because I don't know what I'm doing." And very kindly offered some advice, and it's been great speaking to you ever since. So thank you for that, first of all. But what I think is really playing on people's minds. I mean, from just let me ask you, from your opinion, what's the thing that's going to be most important to people that are in a position where they are concerned about their next position, concerned about their job security? What's the thing that they should be thinking of most? Should they be thinking, let's start applying for jobs? Should they be thinking about their LinkedIn profile? What would you say their focus should be?
Yeah, so if it's somebody that is unsure if they're going to be made redundant or not at the moment, so they're a little bit stuck between two worlds, the thing that I'd be doing right now is definitely focusing on LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is a career-defining opportunity at the moment. It's a ridiculous amount of reach that's going via that platform. I've honestly never seen anything like it. So I think if you're working hard on LinkedIn to become optimized so that you're attracting in opportunities, but you're also creating content and starting to build a personal brand, because the thing about the personal brand is it's not just about the next 10 weeks, it's about the next 10 years, right? So if people are doing that now, whether they're made redundant or not, whether they hit the job market or not, they'll be building something that's of value to them in a number of different ways if they upskill around personal branding at the moment.
Fantastic. And when it comes to people's personal brand, I think that's something that's quite alien to some people. It's something that, being in the recruitment industry for a long time, you had to learn how to use LinkedIn. You had to learn that well, I say you had to, some people still don't, but you had to learn the power of, putting out posts and putting out content that were going to be relevant to the people you were trying to speak to. So, for example, if you were looking for, I don't know, a developer or someone in the tech industry, then you had to make sure the content you were putting out was sort of relevant to that. So, I think with your sort of view on the market right now, and I don't want this to be a sort of a COVID quarantine sort of things are going to be hard podcast. I want it there to be a lot of positive outcomes, but we need to set context first, I think. And I think the context is a very serious point that we need to, very serious point in itself. How difficult, in your opinion, from what you've seen, do you think the market is now, and how much more difficult do you think it's going to be in terms of job security over the next, let's say, 6 months?
Yeah, so it's the most difficult market I've ever seen. But 10 of our clients got job offers in June. So it's not completely dead either. Now, interestingly, out of those 10, only one of them came via applying to a job advert. So this is the key. It's difficult anyway. It becomes ridiculously difficult if all you are doing is applying to job adverts. What do I think is going to happen from here? I think a whole bunch of people are going to return from furlough. There's about 11 million currently being propped up by the government, mixture of self-employed and furloughs. What percentage of them will now be released? I don't know, but it will be significant. 2 to 3 million. We've already got 3 million on the market. So we're looking at 6 million unemployed, unprecedented levels of unemployment. What will that result in? Well, it will result in more ATS use, for example, in adverts, meaning that you need to make sure that you've got a CV that can pass through technology. It will result in thousands of applications to the point that some people will stop applying altogether because they can't manage the response effectively. So instead, they'll be looking to pick off people through referrals and LinkedIn searches. So I think it's going to be incredibly challenging, already is incredibly challenging. But as with anything, if you stay nimble, if you get your head in the right space, and if you use your business skills on your job search, rather than just, we talk about people being hooked on hopium. Like, it's a very addictive thing, hopium. Just hoping that it will sort itself out, then you can get through this. People are getting through this. As I said, 10 people in the last month in my ecosystem have been offered jobs. It's great. But it's tough, mate. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We all, most people are having major ups and downs. You've got something that negatively affects your health, your wealth, your career. It's very, very, very tough. How have you found it?
Tough, super tough. So the first, what you said, I think, is super important. That I love hopium. That's great. By the way, I love that phrase. It's I don't know how I would have reacted to this 5 years ago in my career. I think I reacted to it very differently now than I would have done as Neil from 5 years ago. I think Neil from 5 years ago would have had a lot of hopium, and just sort of hope things work themselves out. But I think that this time around, what I've done is sort of is do a lot of work on LinkedIn, like you said, and I won't go into the sort of the specifics of everything, because I won't go into the specifics of everything. But a lot of what I've done is proactive outreach rather than sit back and hope things are going to come to me with the hopium that you discussed before. But it has been super tough. I also I've spoken to a lot of people because I've started this podcast. I've started a business. I've also started a consultancy role at the same time. So it's all been quite manic. And when it comes to, you know, what I'm going to do day to day, I've not told anyone this, so I'll say it now. I have a goal that I had in mind by the time I turned 40. So I'm 30 now. And I had a goal that I had in mind. So I worked out how many days there were until I turned 40, and I have it on a whiteboard in my room. And every day I take a day off and I write down in a notepad what I achieved that day to get me further towards that goal. And so that if I wake up one morning and I've taken a day off and that's a blank sheet, then I really I really, you know, give myself a hard time about that, except for on Saturday when the pubs are open, where that will be my achievement, is going to the pub and getting drunk that day. I'll allow myself that one. But that's the sort of thing that I think with a lot of with any sort of area or sector that people are in right now, and let me know if you agree with this, there needs to be a sort of a very set goal that you're trying to achieve. It's very difficult there's only so many hours in the day, and it's very difficult to be looking for a job as let's say a recruiter, and then looking into advertising and looking into multiple different areas or things that you could do. There's nothing wrong with looking into them in the first instance, but make sure that you've chosen a sort of a very specific line of work and role that you're looking for, because there's nothing worse than looking through a CV and not understanding what exactly is on it. What exactly that person's looking for. You should be able to tell from their profile and tell from what what they're saying about themselves, exactly what their expertise are. And I think that's super important. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, yeah. People are struggling for clarity at the moment.
Yeah.
But it is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, it's been super tough, but I think it's the important thing for me was to make sure that I had a very set goal in mind, and it doesn't have to be 40. It doesn't have to be 10 years away. There's obviously other
days away or whatever you're down to.
Yeah, or you could be tomorrow if you want it to be. But it doesn't have to be my goal is very lofty in 10 years. I've also got goals in between. You know, there's also, I need to achieve this to get to where I'm looking to go. So yeah, it has been tough, and I've spoken to a lot of people in the market who were feeling, like they don't really know what they're doing, and I've been, giving advice to them about how I would approach their particular situation. I think one of the main pieces of advice I would give to people is to speak to senior peers in your industry. People right now seem to be very good, very open to helping each other out, because everyone seems to be in a very similar sort of boat in terms of where they are, and sort of a empathy and emotional understanding that people might not necessarily have had before this was all happening. So I think that was another good piece of advice, is to always go out and speak to people that are senior in your industry. Don't be scared to do that. Reach out. Don't be scared to send that message on LinkedIn to someone that you've never spoken to before, but maybe they might be willing to help you. But just obviously be nice about it, and don't send it like it's a spam email to 1,000 people. That's the worst thing that you can do. But so for someone who's from your perspective, there must be a ton of we've spoken at length, obviously, but for people who are listening, to what different aspects of how you help people are there? Is it focused on that you mentioned some of what you do before, like the one-to-one interview side of things, but if you were to speak to someone and or they were to come to you as a client saying, look, I really need to get this sorted, I really need to find my next position, my next career, where would you start? What would be like point 1, point 2, and the things that you would go through and help people with?
Yeah, so it's about point 1 is getting clarity on the goal, to your point. Point 2 is then working out what the narrative is in terms of that individual's personal value proposition that would appeal to the person that could help them achieve that goal. And we also go through a bit of a buyer persona exercise, so we almost name their next boss as MD Maggie or CEO. Yeah. So we've then got Maggie or Chris in our mind throughout our strategy. And then it's like a funnel process, really. It's a sales and marketing approach. So once you've got clarity on what you're trying to achieve, who's going to give you that role, and what your value proposition is, your key narrative, we're then into getting the foundations of CV and LinkedIn in play, making sure that meets and it's all aligned. We're then into interview technique, selling your story, asking great questions, navigating video interviews, doing knockout presentations, offer management, salary, all shebang, and then getting up and running in the first 90 days. So we've got a mixture of online and offline solutions that touch that process and give you a marginal gain at each stage of the journey.
And so that it sounds like it's a really sort of in-depth, top-to-bottom sort of approach about how to approach that. How did you come up with that approach? Was that something that you sort of invented yourself and that you worked out over the years, or is it something you learned sort of along the way?
A bit of both. It's evolved definitely since I started. It's evolved. So I worked out some of it from the exec search experience. Obviously, you get good insight. Same as you've worked obviously on various sides of the hiring equation, and you get some good feel from that. Also, my particular skill set is very much within sales and marketing. I was an MD. Right. I was always more interested in revenue and very bad at the operations side, so I had to hire people to come and fill that void. So I've applied a sales and marketing methodology and influencing methodology. I've also crunched all the data of everybody that's been through these programs so far, looked at what's worked, what hasn't, and have been implementing the personal branding myself. So I'm a practitioner. So I've gone from 10,000 to 40,000 followers this year, and I know I know exactly the types of posts, the timing of posts, what needs to happen for that to happen for other people. So I'm able to unpick what I'm doing, unpick what we know from the past, and unpick what our executive search and sales experience gave us to, start to build the former. But actually, it's just ever evolving, isn't it? Because the goalposts are on wheels at the moment, Neil. Like, everything's changing at pace, and so we're evolving it as we go. But yeah, it's got to be data focused, I think, as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got the data to do that, right? And you've got the experience to do that. It's really funny. You said the thing about the operational side. The last three people I've spoken to, bar one on this podcast, who are ex-recruiters or did recruitment, that's one of the main things they say. Essentially they're saying I'm terrible at admin. Yeah. And it's every recruiter I've ever met, just terrible at admin. I said that to my last CEO. I said, look, the sooner that you accept that this admin is never going to be up to scratch.
Yeah, there's no glory in it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The sooner you accept that, the better it's going to be. All right. You might need to hire someone just to do that.
Right. But yeah, I think, good career advice. If you're the same way, then you're moving in the right direction. Because I think good career advice, I think people spend way too much time trying to improve their weaknesses, and it's pointless. You're far better navigating to a place where you double down on your strengths. So I spend no time on weaknesses at all. I'm fully aware of the numerous flaws I have in terms of capability and character, for that matter, and that's fine. I've accepted that now, but I'm going all in on the stuff that I really enjoy and which I know I can perform above average on. And I reckon everyone should do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it's, if you're bad at something and you are, let's say you're about to set up a business, for example, then hire the opposite to you.
Yeah.
Hire someone to do the admin stuff that you can't. I keep saying admin, operation stuff that you can't do, or you don't want to do, or like you said, there's absolutely no glory in it, apart from maybe I sent out my first invoice yesterday. I did that myself. It's again, I do hate doing the operation stuff and admin, but the first one I was definitely going to send out.
Oh, congrats on that. And a lot of people setting up on their own at the moment. Interestingly, they're kind of taking the view that if you can't find the work you want, you should create it. And I love that. I'm helping loads of people launch in various different ways, even taking kind of shareholdings in some other startups and stuff, and seeing people bring their vision to life is awesome. And I love that you've had that moment already of the first invoice. And like, even when I got a hoodie with the Career Jump logo on it, it was like the best day ever. Like, it's like seeing your vision come to life is amazing. So I'm really excited for you, mate. I'm glad the invoice is already gone. So you'll just get loads of moments like that over the next year. I reckon the best year is the hardest, but it's also the most rewarding, isn't it? Because you're getting those shots to the arm of wins, of the first client that you coach who ends up landing somewhere, the first person you help through a promotion panel, the first time your logo turns up, the first time you get asked to do X and Y at an event, like all of that stuff. I love milestones as part of the growth journey. They keep you going through the hardest stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying to you before the podcast, I've got a speaking event that I'm doing, and I met the guys who run that company, and it's the recruitment events company. I met them last year at RecFest, and I didn't know that this RecFest went on, and it's this huge, like 3,000 person event.
Yeah,
and I I was speaking to Jamie, who runs it, and they were doing this event, and I said I'd love to speak at that, and he said, yeah, I've approved your application to speak there. And I was like, I've been trying for a year to get speaking slots at places, and I finally got that as well. So you're right, it's those little things that do really. This is the most I've ever spoken about myself on a podcast, by the way. But it's those little things like that really sort of keep people going. So what's the plans in the future for you then? Where's the expansion going? Because you've gone from strength to strength so far with this. What's the future look like?
Yeah, I'm really grappling with that at the moment, if I'm honest, because I've kind of got to the point of capacity with what I'm doing. Certainly in terms of my time. I mean, my North Star is I want to be known for having ended job search misery, right? That's like the big thing for me. That's the mission. So everybody's saying to me right now, I'll just sit there and, coin it in and enjoy that's not what it's about for me. It sounds cheesy, but I want Career Jump to have a legacy that's much bigger than that. So my ideal, like in the same way as you go to Headspace for meditation, I want people to have the Career Jump app, which is what everybody uses for transitions, and for it to have a community base to it, for it to have a holistic program that helps you understand what you want and how to get it, strengths finders, personality, like all in one place at a click of a button. And for us to be the global standard on that and the go-to app in that space.
Yeah, when you first told me about that, I couldn't believe that you had an app. It's such a unique thing to. I mean, I've not come across it. I don't want to say you're the only company that does it, but I've not come across it before in the context of what you guys do. So do you want to talk a little bit more about it?
Well, the thing about the online content, so people still lean more towards wanting a one-on-one session, and I totally understand that. But the thing about the power of the online content is they can go into the app at any time and access the information they need. So if you imagine, face-to-face interviews are just starting up, right? So if you imagine somebody's socially sat outside a Starbucks, socially distanced around the corner from the interview before they go in, they can go into the app and they can click interview prep, pre-interview pep talk, right? And there's a 2-minute talk on there that's a video that they can watch and listen that will settle their nerves, anchor them back to the plan that they did, which is all part of the app before they turned up at the interview as part of their research, get their narrative right, get them walking into that building in the right headspace to perform at their best in that interview. So it's like being able to access on-demand coaching to perform at your best through your job search anytime, anywhere. That's what the app does. I
absolutely love that. The meditation piece before you go into an interview, because it is the most stressful bit, isn't it? when you're sat outside and you're waiting, and you're always 10 minutes early anyway, so you're fidgeting in the lobby and you're like looking at your phone, but trying to make sure you're looking up as well, just in case the person's coming down the stairs to see you or whatever it may be. Yeah. Or sat in a room deciding, do I leave the jacket on or do I put it? Am I standing when they come into the room? Yeah. I've never spoken about that before, but I guess that is something that you think about a lot. That my experiences anyway, but you think about a lot. So having that sort of meditation piece is really useful. I think really useful. So
it's meditation. It's also info. Like, so if we've got a module on HR interviews, which tends to be more structured, more competency based, and so before you go in to meet a HR person, you could spend the hour prior on HR interviews. There's one that's on presenting to boards, and so if you provided a presentation, it's a quick recap for you before you go in to present to the board. So I'd say I just think it's about getting that on-demand help going. That's where the solution is, and it's all there. It's just that people are still leaning towards the traditional one-on-one coaching, and I'm hoping to help get more people the help they need through the digital solutions as well.
And I think there's a place for that, definitely, because if I went out to try and find that now, those sort of resources, it would be such a sort of a mismatch of information. And you find that a lot of the time when you're asking people that you get completely contradictory advice a lot of the time. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. I just think it's a great idea to have that on demand, on hand access to what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and preparation techniques. And yeah, like I said before, it sounds, the fact that you had that app was really amazing to me.
Cool.
I think it's really cool. So how much time have we got left? We've got a few minutes left. Great. So if you were to give sort of, let's say, your top 3 pieces of advice to people who are listening right now, who are in the situation that we're all in, that we've been discussing, around what they should do in terms of, their career, where they're feeling, what they should be doing, what would be those 3 pieces of advice?
So are they on the job market or not on the job market?
Let's say they're on the job market right now.
Yeah. So 3 biggest pieces of advice. 1, you've got to get your head right. So that means getting clarity on what you want. But it also means if you've just been made redundant, give yourself a little bit of time. Not too much, can't be complacent, but a little bit of time to get your head right. One thing I see that I'm seeing in the market already is people have gone from panic buying to panic applying, right? They're just applying to everything. They hit the market, they freak out, start applying to everything, maybe land a couple of interviews, but they're not ready to interview either. So they turn up, they give a poor performance. They're still carrying baggage from what's happened to them previously. And it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of just confidence getting completely smashed early as they get more and more knockbacks. And it's because they've gone too early. So you've got to get your head right, get clarity around what you want, get your narrative clear, and just give yourself a little bit of time to get over the shock. And it's almost like a grieving process. It's, you know what it's like redundancy is hideous. So you've got to give yourself a bit of time to get in a good space. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to then use your business skills on your job search. So run it like a project, run it like a go-to-market strategy. Don't be passive. Don't get hooked on hopium. Have multiple ideas around how you're going to generate opportunity and demand. Like, I have massive respect for you for the fact you picked the phone up to me for a start. People just don't do that. I probably get 10 coaches a week drop me a note on LinkedIn going, "Oh, is there any chance of collaboration? Or can you just give me 5 minutes to talk about branding?" I've never got back to any of them because I just can't get through to them all. I'm trying to get through to the job search people. So that kind of proactivity, that looking at who the players are in the space you want to get into, picking up the phone, ask them for help, all that stuff you spoke about, multi-channel approach, use your business skills. I see people who've been MDs of multi-million-pound companies who've gone into new territories, driven revenue increases, done amazing stuff, right? And they hit the job market and they just lose all of that and go into themselves, into their shell, and end up completely passive. And it's hideous. So don't do that. Get your head right, use your business skills. And then the third thing is to be brave enough to implement that personal branding stuff. Like, LinkedIn is a once in a career opportunity, as I said earlier. And if you can learn LinkedIn and you can learn personal branding and content generation, you will attract in opportunity. You will attract in the hidden market rather than just applying for jobs, which is, prior to COVID, was a 1 to 3% hit rate on interview. Now after COVID, God knows how low it's going to be. It'll be less than a 1% hit rate from application to interview, probably 1/4% or something like that. So that would be it.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I agree with all those points. I think getting your head right is certainly one of the most important things. I don't think I did anything the first week afterwards. I think I did nothing at all, and just thought about stuff and just not relaxed, but I didn't apply for anything. I didn't update my CV. I just thought about what I wanted to do first of all, and I think that is super important because, you know, a lot of the time you're going to be in a situation where you just feel like you need to rush into something new. And I agree that you're not in a good space by doing that. And yeah, you know, I just called you up, didn't I? I think I spoke to, it goes back to my point, like you said, I spoke to 2 or 3 people in the industry that I trust and told them what I was trying to do. And one of them, it was Jeremy Russon, said, speak to Andrew MacAskill. So I said, okay. So I added you on LinkedIn and gave you a call. People are a lot of the time, if you are going to be proactive about it, are going to be be happy to give up their time to help you a lot of the time. No, don't expect everyone to just, right there and then give up an hour of their time. But if you approach it in the right sort of way, then a lot of the time people will. And I think that your last point is super important as well. A lot of people are scared to do the content game. A lot of people are scared to, it's almost like they're, I don't know, worried about embarrassing themselves maybe.
There's no progress to be had the whole time you worry about the judgment of others. There's just no progress to be had in that world. You've got to.
Yeah, exactly. There's and I think that's what people are worried about. And it's the people that are the most sort of honest about who they are and what they're looking to achieve that are the best. you can really easily pick out when people are being disingenuous about what they're saying. And I think, you know, that you should just be putting yourself out there a little bit more. If you're not going to start putting content out, then start off with just telling people about your situation, and people will be fine to listen to that. So yeah, I think 3 fantastic points to end it on. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, not at all. Just I wish you all the best with the launch. I hope you enjoy the style of work as much as I have, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on. So thank you. Hopefully the listeners got some value from us today.
Hopefully. I think there's definitely tons of stuff to take away from that. So thank you so much for your time again, and yeah, I'll catch up with you soon.
All the best. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. Take care.